The Buffalo Bills just provided us some updates regarding coaching staff. It maybe isn't the firing that you want, but it is clarity from Sean McDermott about what we're doing and where we're going as an organization. The question for us on the table right now and for today that you can drop down in the comments is this: is there a midseason move that you believe that we should make in light of this loss to the Texans? Are you looking at Joe Brady? Are you looking at Bobby Babich? Are you looking at the trio of all three of them, including Sean McDermott? There's a lot to talk about today in this episode. We got some updates from Sean McDermott we're going to break down. But before we get into it, again, my name is Colin. This is Crack the Table. We're all Bills, no breaks, breaking down Buffalo Bills content every single day. If you're looking for a home where you could just break down and have conversations, enjoy all things Buffalo Bills with other Bills Mafia, make sure to join our community. Again, smash the subscribe button. But that being said, let's get right into it. And I appreciate this tweet right here. Looking on the screen, Bills head coach Sean McDermott says, "I'm very confident in Joe Brady and our offensive staff." So in other words, the answer to the question right now of what's happening with our coaching staff, it's a no. We're not firing. We're not getting rid of Joe Brady. Now, that might be coming. We don't know. Sean McDermott, I believe, is a really stand-up head coach. He's a really stand-up guy. He's emotionally aware, even though he repeats a lot of his phrases. He said on Brady and his coaching staff, I believe in those guys. I really do. And again, with a defensive-minded head coach, we're not going to see him take play calling away from Joe Brady. But it's not the offensive system maybe that we desired and that maybe we wanted. Again, is this a Brandon Beane and personnel thing, or is this actually a coaching thing? He goes on, he says, I believe in what they do and how they do things, and I think we're in a good spot. He added that they need to add more adjustments on the offense. However, again, going on to this tweet here, Coach Sean McDermott says that Joe Brady needs to make more adjustments in this offense. And can I just be honest with you? When we look back at this Texans game, outside of a couple of those screen calls, what were your issues with Joe Brady as a play caller? If I'm just going to take a breath and take a moment here and just think through this, the fact that James Cook had 7 carries for 75 yards, we know he had the big breakaway run, but regardless, he had 7 carries, 75 yards, and then seemingly at the end of the game, I believe he only had 17 total carries, and I believe it was still over 100 yards, but within that, it's like, what are we doing? Why are we not giving the ball to James Cook more? Why, in light of the pass rush of the Texans, don't we shift the game script more to be a run-happy game rather than a screen-heavy game? The linebackers and even the cornerbacks of the Texans really had our number on most of those screen plays. There's really only a few of them that worked. There was a lot of them where I believe the stat line at some point for Khalil Shakir in like the first half was like a couple catches for like -7 yards or something like that. I don't know the specifics, but it felt bad, right? We continue to go back to the screens. For some reason, right after, again, I said this yesterday, a game after Tyrell Shaver's career game where he had 4 for 90 and a touchdown, we didn't pass him the ball. He didn't have a single catch against the Texans. That was just wonky. But again, just overall, I do think there's some positives. Now, you could get mad at me for saying these, but the hook and ladder play was amazing. That was a dialed up, very specific practice play on a 4th and 27 that this team obviously showed that they wanted to go into this game and win it, and they wanted to even throw out some of their heavy hitting plays or some of their plays that were a little bit more ticky-tacky or technical or whatever you want to call them. But I do think that the coaching staff adjustments probably aren't our best move right now. Again, drop in the comments what you think about this situation, but I think Dan Mitchell was really reasonable with this, and he says this. He says there's nothing reasonable about suggesting firings that aren't even going to happen anytime soon. It's a useless point. Now, I don't necessarily agree with him on the point that they couldn't happen anytime soon, but I do agree with his point right here where he says, I'm concerned about what we can actually control. I agree with that. Control what you can control, and the things outside of your control, yeah, they're going to cause you anxiety. They're going to cause you fear. They're going to make you think that everything's crumbling and everything's falling. But you can handle and you can manage the things within your grasp, within your sphere of ownership. And when you do that, you actually seem to excel about those things. Let people who you've delegated responsibility handle those things, and when the time comes, make the firings you need to. But you know what? Mid-season firings are never beneficial for a team. Again, we're 7-4. We're a couple plays away from being 9-2 even, in my opinion. Again, we need to limit Josh's mistakes. If he didn't have all these interceptions and these turnovers, we'd be having a different conversation right now on the team as a whole. Again, yes, an MVP last year with the same offensive line and the same weapons. He still has it in the tank. He looked like he got nicked up and banged up yesterday or on Thursday, but he's fine. A couple other things here. Again, just maybe going back to some of these injuries, just to acknowledge, following Thursday night's massacre, the Bills have over 15 players dealing with injuries and 12 on IR. Again, maybe a change will become in the coaching staff in regards to the strengths and conditioning first year of Greenfield. But hey, a couple other things. Terrell Bernard and Spencer Brown were listed as IR candidates by Sean McDermott in his press conference yesterday. This is not good. We don't have the formal practice report because obviously we don't have one until next Wednesday. But within that, Spencer Brown and Terrell Bernard not looking good. Now, some of you guys could look at Terrell Bernard and you could say that's a positive for our team. That's your own take, but within that, Spencer Brown, that's a loss regardless of how you cut that. But within that, Sal also gave us a handful of things. Again, Terrell Bernard week to week. Spencer Brown still evaluating. Maxwell Harrison is formally in concussion protocol. But Benford and Epinesa, who also got hurt in the game, they did return to the game. They should be fine. Again, these are all from Coach McDermott in his press conference. Josh Allen is sore. We saw him wreathing in pain on the ground, rolling around a little bit, but he's expected to be fine. But then good news on 3 guys that we talked about previously is Kincaid, Mathis, and Samuel, all improving. I believe all 3 of those guys are going to be playing in the game against the Pittsburgh Steelers coming up next Sunday. But within that, I'm not going to play this, but I do want to draw your attention to it. If you want to go find this on Twitter, you may. One of the things that Sean McDermott talks about in here that I do appreciate about him as a head coach. Now you can say, oh, he's too conservative, or he's, I don't like his zone, his zone scheme as a defense, or I don't like how, he lacks passion with things. Can I just tell you, Sean McDermott stood up for a player, and actually the reporters were in some senses trying to say that the Bills players didn't want it. They didn't want the win on Sunday or on Thursday against the Texans, but Sean McDermott did what every good leader should do, and he said, what did they actually say? What were the actual words that came out of their mouth? A couple of the reporters got some words, and then Sean McDermott basically said this. He says, don't put words in the mouth of other people like that. I appreciate him. He's a good leader. You could say he's not the best coach. You could say you want to move on from him as a coach. But as a leader, as a man, I do appreciate him. I do trust him in that sense. And as a coach in the NFL, I do think that we've seen around the league, just teams get undermined by bad character. Sean McDermott has great character, and I do appreciate that about him as a head coach. A couple other things, maybe just to spark some conversation here. I saw this on Twitter this morning, or on X this morning. Team heart attack rankings. And again, however you want to interpret this, whether it's, the bottom rankings are the negative ones or positive ones, regardless. How do you feel right now, Bills Mafia, about how, about the Buffalo Bills? I got them 26 right here on here. But again, team heart attack rankings. I think I had a heart attack against the Patriots. I think I had a heart attack against the Falcons. I think I had one against the Ravens. There's a handful of games this year that, of course, it's not to belittle or, put shame or make less of actual heart attacks, but just as a fan, like the emotional wherewithal that happens, that's put on us every single week by this team. There's a couple games that I could say I didn't have any issues with that. But again, what do you think? What game was worse for you? Probably for me, again, it was the Patriots game. But going on, a couple other things here. One of the things that was a big narrative going into this season was that the Buffalo Bills were the only team going into all of their games this year as favorites. Now, that has obviously not proven out, or that played out in the way that we wanted it to. We're 7-4, but even within that, when we look at this team, they're still a fine team. They're not a bad team. They're going to beat some of these bad teams. They're going to go in and they're going to probably have an 11-6 or maybe 10-7 record at the end of the year, and they're still a wild card team. But I think going into this year, our expectations, which I think is really important, Bills Mafia, we have expectations of Super Bowls every year because of our consistent past track record. But going into this season and going into this next stretch of the season, I think we've got to tone those down a little bit and just see development. Look for guys, again, like Cole Bishop or Jackson Hawes or Deion Walker or some of these other guys that are ascending and say, hey, these are really good moves. There's clear development happening by the coaching staff. I can still believe in what's going on. But regardless, of course, we still want to win big games when it matters most down the stretch. But a couple other things I did, I said this yesterday, and I do think this is really important. There was just a lot of times Deion Dawkins was standing around, and here's just a clear example. Josh had an opportunity, but Deion Dawkins just chilling. A couple other things. If you didn't see this play, Cam Chandler posted this, and I do appreciate this. If you watch the sack really that happened on Josh Allen, you see right there. Do you see right there with his knee? If Danielle Hunter holds his knee and the weight falls on him, he's done for the season. That's an ACL. That's a meniscus. That's a LCL. That's a mix of those. But even right here, watch him adjust his grip and watch what he does with his other arm. I'm like, this is so weird. I'm really thankful for the way that Danielle Hunter sacked Josh Allen here. But watch this. He grabs him and he almost secures his legs in such a way that the ligaments in his knees are not going to get strained anyway. Again, he brings him down, and even watch at the end of this. He's like, you good? Like, you good down there? And it's so funny. I mean, it's terrible that he got sacked. It's terrible we lost the game. But you know what? It's plays like that. Josh Allen got hurt on 2 separate plays in that game, but that could have been the play that ended the season just like that for Josh Allen. The last thing I want to talk about, I'd appreciate a comment on this one too. Again, which of these 2 lost teams do you think is best right now? And I'm really just looking at these AFC teams. Which team would you be most nervous to play against? For me, it's got to be the Colts. I'm not so worried about the Broncos. I'm not so worried about Drake May right now. I do believe in a couple weeks we're going to go and beat Drake May, even in Foxborough. But again, Jonathan Taylor and the offensive line of the Colts really scares me because it plays exactly to our weaknesses right now with our defensive line. We'll see if the coaching staff in 10 days has any developments or answers, or if the health of our team with Mathis coming back could propel us back into a better defensive line or a better rushing defense. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, in all of it, hey, again, my name is Colin. This is Crack the Table, where all Bills no breaks, breaking down Buffalo Bills content every single day. If you're just looking for a home, a place to rest, to hang out, to chat football with other people, make sure to join our community. Smash the subscribe button. But in all of it, have a great Saturday. Enjoy this day. God bless. Go Bills.